This episode has been divided into two parts. So this is part one of the 13 L&D Nightmares.
So, hey everyone, welcome to our October L&D talk. We'll be tackling the scary situations that we face as learning and development professionals. I figured since October is usually known for its Halloween season, I thought it might be apt that we talk about our L&D nightmares, our nightmares as learning and development professionals. I've
Because there
only
are so
listed
many.
down. There's so many. I've so far listed 13. So I have here with me my friend Jon Schneiders. We
I
will
guess.
be talk. Hi John, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining in this discussion again. We'll be going through each one. So I'll give a description of each one, and then we'll talk about like if this is relevant to us and what are some possible solutions or solutions we've done to address this fear. Okay, John, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do this. This is you. Just O podcast. Just podcast.
Okay, stop.
Just
Just
for
yeah.
Liam's cast.
All right. So number one is the ghost of forgotten learning. So for just a quick description, this is creating programs that no one uses. So the fear is developing programs that after all of that, nothing has happened. What do you think, John? Is this something that is relevant or that you've encountered? I have definitely encountered this. And what are some solutions that you think we can do to counter this fear?
Jess, you put the number one there, and the first thing that I thought was like the ghost of forgotten learning was like I go through a training and then I remember nothing afterwards, which is which is also a really common situation. No, the
Yeah.
mind distractors out there who most of the time want to attend training for entertainment purposes. It's time away from the things that require concentration. But so that's how I took it for the first time. It was super interesting to see number one, the ghost of forgotten learning. What did you cover that there in that session? I don't remember. Did you say this really? So I definitely I have seen that. Well, I have definitely forgotten myself some issues. But here is how I have seen training shifting
Mhm.
use of tactics that stick to mind. I have seen a trainer come with rhymes for the main messages that they
Okay.
wanted to the audience to stick with. I have seen trainers come with props. I have a very popular trainer in South Africa who decorates the room according to the
Oh.
topic of the train. Uh, so the use of creativity is where I have seen most of the tactics being applied to ensure people
Right.
remember.
John, it made me sad that you said some people attend training for entertainment.
But it is true.
Yeah. So are you saying, okay, when you say for entertainment, like these are people who are working and so they've attended the training for the sake of like getting a break from work? Is that what you're
I have seen that reality,
getting at?
but I also have seen, if you look at post-training feedback, you can easily catch some big words like, "Oh, it was fun. Oh, it was entertaining." Like when you leave the comments open for people to say whatever they found of the training, you are gonna find these words. You are gonna find words that are related to entertaining. They are gonna say, "It was a fun session. I had so much fun. It was entertaining."
Yeah.
Etc. So you are going to, and that gives you the idea that they are looking for entertainment, but also because they want training to be fun. It
Sure.
is nowadays an expectation from trainers delivering content. They want it to be fun. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's how I see it.
Yeah. So what you're saying is with the trainer that you were talking about is that they make it engaging, right? So visuals and then making sure that
Yeah.
the room matches the training. Wow, that's a lot of effort. But wow. Yeah, I guess there is an element of like a trainer, you also have to be an entertainer so that to make sure that you're
Keep
your
people's
learner
attention, right?
yeah, to get people's attention. Um, I think that it is inevitable for people to forget the training, especially if it's a training that they do not need right now. So I always go back to separating the must learn and the learn on need because I think people can only take in so much. So I would
Yeah.
yeah, I would make sure that the training addresses like a problem or an error or a difficulty that they're having.
Uh-huh.
Right? That way, it's something that they know they have to solve. And
Yeah.
at the same time, I would create a space or a platform where they know they can go back to if the time comes that they actually need that
Right.
topic.
Right. So it needs to be relevant, right? So it has to be relevant for them, contextualized to the need that they need has.
I mean, because I think about like when you buy a new phone, I don't go through all of the instructions. Like the thing I want to know now is like, how do I turn it on? Where do I go for what? I don't look at all of the features unless you do, John.
I do not.
You probably do.
No,
Okay.
definitely not. And I bank a lot on the devices that come with a tips app that pops up and say tips of the day, and that's when I'm gonna go pay attention. But proactively look for all the features.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I guess that's that. Like making sure it's engaging when they're there, and then making sure that it's relevant to what they need to learn, but at the same time placing that learning or that training somewhere where it is accessible when the time comes that it is needed by them or by the learner.
True. Yeah.
The second nightmare is the irrelevant training curse. I think this is a little bit related to what we've mentioned. But anyway, this is delivering outdated or useless content.
I know, right? Doesn't it happen that you sit in a conference or you sit in a talk or you watch a webinar and you ask yourself, what am I doing here? Why am I watching this? Also a common trend. It does happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Now think of like environments where we have to take those compliance courses every year just for the sake of like meeting compliance requirements. And and I see irrelevant also in the sense of being outdated. I don't know if that's going to show up there, but I see the relationship here between being irrelevant and being outdated. Like, why am I learning this? I don't use it anymore.
Right. I think of like the old school compliance courses, the one where their clothes are so dated, with the big shoulder pads, and then sexual harassment. This is wrong. What you shouldn't be saying. Yeah, I think those are pretty dated. So what do you think, Jan? What do you think how should we be addressing as L&D professionals when it comes to how should we face this fear or make sure that it does not happen?
Pin down the real need of your audience. Like it is really, really important to do a pre-training, a pre-work, to do the pre-work and get complete clarity on what is the audience expecting. What is it that they want to be able to do with the content we are presenting afterwards? It needs to be actionable. To make it relevant. The audiences nowadays need to get out of the session knowing what they will be able to do with that content. That's how I think we can overcome this fear.
I also think it also means that we need to create programs that are easy to update or that are agile, right? Like agile learning programs. Because I think about like, unless you have all the resources, like I think of the videos, if you are, let's say you want to do a training that is video based and you did this whole recording with people, right? Had actors or whatever. I think if you are going to commit to that, you also have to be able to know, you also have to have the capability of being able to update that real quickly, right? Or I don't know, maybe edit it. So making sure that the programs are agile and easy to edit, easy to update.
Yeah, what you said earlier with the example, most of the time we are going to keep some content really core because it's this is it. It's not going to, but the examples are the areas where we can change. We should update and pay attention because that's what is going to relate to to the audience.
So to make sure that the clothes are not dated, all of the actors should just wear like black or white, fashion-less, black shirts. That's it. Everyone's wearing black shirts now. Because I don't know what would be a timeless piece. A timeless workwear. No. Everyone will just wear black shirts. That's it. Okay. Next is the zombie learner. Oh my goodness. I feel like I want to say this seems more rampant now with the work from home setup. But I guess I've also had like a zombie learner in like an in-person class. But I think it's higher now. Like the chances of getting a zombie learner is higher in a work from home setup because people are, I don't know, maybe they're taking the training in their beds.
Yeah,
somewhere.
or it's like when the person is mandated to take a training and doesn't want to be there, or also
Right.
when the person is going through something stressful on their personal life
Yeah.
that doesn't allow them to be really present in the live session, in the training session. So
That's
so
true.
that is that.
Yeah. Or they see, or they were sent to training because they're being punished.
Right.
Or
Oh my
I hate
goodness,
that.
that is
I
so
know.
not. It's so yeah. No, it's a big
I
no.
know.
It's
I
a
feel
big
so
don't.
bad when that happens. It's like, because you're there, you're handling the program, but you can see in their face that I was just sent here because I messed up the
Because
other thing.
yeah, because this is a miss on the needs analysis. There is this
Yeah.
tendency in many environments that they want to solve everything with training, but then there is this misunderstanding that of what training really is, and there is this assumption that okay, if we need to fix a problem here, we have to send this individual or this group or this team to take training. But what is training there? And then the understanding that training is just classroom setting when it isn't. So missing the needs analysis is for me one of the causes of zombie learners. Just send people to training when it's not what is going to solve their issue.
That's true. Yeah, I'm very careful now with when a manager approaches. Well, I don't really do all of the or handle the training part anymore since we do more of the support. We support the training department. But every now and then when they bring up like, oh, we're asked to do this, I like to challenge the training manager to say that is this really a training solution? Because sometimes, honestly, it's a coaching. It's an absence of coaching from the manager's side, right? Or I would even say like, so maybe for example, some would say like, well, the goal is for them to create better presentations when they're reporting. I would even just say, why don't we just create a template for the organization? And then, right, is it just really a presentation? Because I don't know, like I wouldn't want to be sitting down and say, okay, this is where you put the spacing, where you put the image. Like, is that what you had in mind? Why don't we just have a template for how they should be presenting their numbers? Or is this maybe the manager should coach their team member, because sometimes it's even just like sometimes it's just one issue and then it ends up becoming like, oh, they need to go through this whole training program. When really you just want to address an issue, right? Like it was okay, they kind of messed up here, but I wouldn't always, I agree. And I think people in the training department or L&D department, I get it. Because when I was starting with L&D, I was afraid. I think it's a mix of I was afraid, but also I did not have the tool or the mindset of that I have now, where not everything is a training solution. So there was a part of me that was afraid to push back and challenge that. And I think at some point, and I think when training managers or L&D managers become like, they get used to the receiving end, right? Or I'm going to help you fix this. It becomes we become like a repair shop instead of us being like learning advisors or experts in the field, right? That's how it should be.
Yeah. Remember when you said earlier that you mentioned that we basically ask people to go, we send the entire team to a training because we think that's the solution there. I see that the zombie learner is that person who is demotivated because of the fact that they have to go through something that they know, and the issue isn't really the fact that they have to go to the entire training program, as you mentioned. So we can quickly like identify this zombie learner as either the one that is disengaged and disinterested and is there because it's mandated, or that person who is also demotivated because the needs analysis misunderstand the issue and required the person to go to the whole training again. And so the word that is a pet peeve for me is retrain. Oh my goodness, it aches my ears when we hear like, oh, we have to retrain everybody. Are you kidding me? Like the amount of investment that goes into this and the waste of resources here to retrain people.
Yeah. So okay, the next one is this is my favorite. The invisible ROI. This is my biggest fear.
Why is this
Invisible
your biggest fear?
ROI.
Why is this your
Because,
favorite?
okay, so for our listeners, this ROI is return on investment, and it means here in this case the invisible ROI is failing to prove the value of your program or L&D program.
Okay.
Failing to show a return on investment, just for everyone's awareness and context. Why is this my fear? Because I think now it's no longer, I want to say I'm a lot wiser now in terms of making sure that every initiative or program that I do has an obvious ROI. So, but I would have to say it's a constant pounding fear because learning and development as a whole is constantly attacked for its value, for its existence.
Because we have challenges. What conclusions have you come up with? Because when we say invisible ROI, it's invisible to whom? It's invisible to the leaders, or it's invisible to the to L&D professionals?
I meant like invisible to the leaders.
Okay, so we see the value. We in L&D we see the value. So it's a matter of knowing how to articulate. You think?
For sure.
How to articulate the ROI. Why do you think it is so challenging for most L&D professionals to articulate and showcase and put together a good ROI there as part of their pitch?
So this is actually, I mean, we did talk about this being a constant challenge, it seems, among L&D professionals. My theory, this is just my theory.
Yeah, go ahead. I want to hear it.
My theory is because most L&D professionals, or those who do end up pursuing this kind of career or this field, most of us are either teachers, trainers, I want to say learners by heart. And so I think
so you're not in business.
Yes. But because we are learners by heart, we would like to firmly believe that learning is an end in itself, right? So for us is once we get that aha and we get engagement and we get like attendance completion or a lot of people participate, we see that as
learning
ROI.
Happened.
Yeah, right?
Learning happened.
Because that's, I guess, in our heart of hearts, that's what matters. Right? That is the goal for our people to learn. But that does not always convert to like cash. So I guess what I'm trying to say is we're learners by heart, and we're not really not all of us are exposed to business.
Right.
So that's why I think often we forget or we neglect or we fail to justify the return on investment.
I think it's an interesting theory. It is an interesting theory, because it is true. Most of us come from educational background, or a background that has to do with education. We don't come from business school and then decide to go to L&D. So this does make sense. Now, so I think there is a hole in the L&D field, which is how do we bridge now business with L&D? Because from business perspective, it is true that we want to be able to ensure that every investment we make is justified and provides value. That's the need of ROI. And when we fail to articulate the value that we are providing in quantifiable ways, then we are going to be frowned upon. So what am I getting out of it? For business leaders, this is the question. What am I getting out of this investment that I'm making here? So there is a need and an opportunity and a gap between business and L&D professionals, where we need to take a look at how do we inculcate this mindset in an industry that is filled with people coming from non-business backgrounds.
Right. Yeah.
That would be fantastic if we can crack this nut and solve this problem and massively disseminate now this awareness on how we should articulate ROI.
Yeah.
So it's not invisible anymore, because that's the fear.
I also think, Jon, that some L&D professionals or people in our field have a tendency to be stubborn about it.
Really? How come?
Because I think, and I've said this, I've mentioned this last time, and this is me coming from my experience. I think before, my mindset was they just don't understand, they don't value their people, they don't value learning. But now I've changed my mindset to, well, they don't understand because I am unable to communicate it in the way that they would understand. And I think I should also stop with the mission of, I want them to value learning. I think that should not be your mission. Because if that is your mission, to value something, it becomes subjective, right? So what you would want is to, because I'm also thinking now how, as L&D practitioners or professionals, we should be, again, this goes back to not everything is a training program, not everything is a training scenario, right? So,
interesting.
I don't know. I'm thinking that we should stop thinking that we want them to value learning. Rather, maybe we should focus more on, we want to make people more capable of their job.
Right.
We want to enhance them in their skills.
Right. But here is the thing. I think one of the main points with ROI is the fact that you show the return in a long-term capacity, right? In the long term, the impact is long-term. Because we are talking about people and how they absorb knowledge, and then the time that they have to assimilate that knowledge and apply it, and then iterate, because they won't be perfect on the first time that they start implementing what they've learned. There are going to be mistakes, and they have to. So it's measuring that progress is a long-term game. And I think I hear now when you say that you think some people are stubborn. I would translate it also, or expand it to being impatient, because they want to see results immediately. I mean, the perspective is like, the challenge is changing the perspective that learning is not like sales, that we develop a product and put in the market and we get the gains immediately.
Sure.
Then there are have you heard of the Phillips ROI model? It basically allows you to assign a monetary value to learning outcomes. And there are values. There are basically 5 values there. 5 levels for you to do this. Like, one is reaction and planned action. So and then learning, and then the application and implementation, which is the point here on the impatience and the stubbornness. And then you have the business impact, which I remember, you're right, we discussed this in last month. The impact to the business, like, has CSAT improved? Has it generated more sales, etc.? And then the cost benefit analysis, which is how much are you spending on your training, on your trainer, like the hourly, the hour spent, the dollar amount per hour of your trainer, and etc. Plus venue, plus the snacks, plus all that comes with it. So the one that we know, but there are 5 levels there, like 5 different ways of showing of assigning monetary value. It's an interesting model, and I think that's what we should start taking a look at.
So Phillips's model is you get a monetary prize, or you get cash, or you get paid if you hit some of these markers. Is that correct?
You basically, you basically calculate the monetary value of each of the actions involved in your training implementation.
Okay. All right. I misunderstood. I thought you meant that learners were getting paid.
That would be amazing.
Like,
we would never have zombie learners anymore.
Oh my gosh. I was just thinking, I have an issue with that. You mean like compensate them monetarily? That makes a lot more sense. Because I was about to challenge, I don't know if I want to be compensating people.
No, absolutely not. My goodness. Well, it would mean that this is now an internship or an apprenticeship or a learnership, like it happens in South Africa as well. In South Africa, the government has an interesting program. I don't know, have you heard of their learnership program there?
I think I have, yeah.
So basically, there is a stipend that the government gives to learners who are accepted into businesses and companies to learn new skills in the job, and then the businesses there share the same amount of and contribute the same value to the learners, and it is a learnership because the expectations are not the same as of the full-time employees who are getting full salary. But that is not the Philips model. That's not. That's a different.
Could you imagine if that was the case? How many people would go to training, or just like, what can I learn? I need to earn extra today.
But I think if just playing with the idea, it would make people way more relevant.
No, but that makes sense. I like that's a good idea, John, with the Philips model. So Philips, maybe you'd want to sponsor our podcast one of these days. Well, let's go to the next one. The overload beast. This is nightmare number 5. Overload beast. And this is drowning learners with too much content.
A week worth of training, 4 hours. You basically skim through the curriculum.
Oh my gosh. I mean, this is where micro-learning comes in. And this is where
I agree.
I would say everything that I've learned from Ray Jimenez addresses this. And this goes back to, I mean, the whole framework, at least with his framework, is separating between the must-learns and the learn-on-need. And they don't all have to be, I don't know, maybe it depends on the topic or the program, but treat the content as like it can stand on its own, but also they can also still be connected together as a whole. Because the idea is not to drown the learners with like the entire program, right?
Yeah.
When I think of maybe I think of like something as simple as maybe office decorum. Office etiquette. I wouldn't give like the entire list or expect learners to memorize everything. That's probably a very simple example. But I would divide them in chunks of like, all right, focus on this today, or this is the case. What do you do? Right. So
I think this one solves 2 problems. I think it breaks down. It's like breaking it down. Because you spoke about it earlier. You spoke about the fact that it's difficult to absorb a lot of putting people through an entire training program again, because people don't absorb everything. And then nowadays our attention span, it is being said that it's getting shorter and shorter because of how exposed we are to pieces and bits of information through social media, where we just keep scrolling and we don't even pay attention to things. We move quickly from one topic to another topic. It's amazing. And so breaking it down the way that you are saying here is what for me is what addresses this one. And it's connected to number two, the irrelevant training curves, because
Yeah.
you break it down. This means you really need to narrow down your content and focus on what is going to make the biggest impact there to your learner.
Yeah. And again, I would also go back to making sure that the learner knows where to find that information once it does become relevant for their problem
Right.
or issue. Right.
Absolutely.
So
Mhm.
putting that on a learn on need basis, like this is what you want to or need to learn now. Or I think about, like, let's say somebody's being onboarded in the company, right? You can't expect a new hire to know everything um, all in one go, but
Right.
let
Yes.
them, right? So let them know that at least where to find or who to talk to for certain concerns, or what can I do if I have questions about this and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this is where micro learning comes in, and this is where
I
I
agree.
would say everything that I've learned from Ray Jimenez uh, addresses this, and this goes back to, I mean, the whole framework, at least with his framework, is separating between the must learns and the learn on need, and they don't all have to be. I don't know. Maybe it depends on the topic or the program, but treat the content as like it can stand on its own, but also
Mhm.
when they can also still be connected together as a whole. Because the idea is not to drown the learners with like the entire program, right? When
Yeah.
I think of maybe, I don't know, maybe I think of like something as simple as maybe office decorum. Right, like office etiquette.
Mhm.
I wouldn't give like the entire list or expect learners to memorize everything. That's probably a very simple example. But I would divide them in chunks of like, all right,
Yes.
focus on this today, or this is the case. What do you do,
Right.
right? So,
I think
or
this one
like
solves two problems. I think it
mm,
solves it breaks down. It's like breaking it down.
yeah,
Because you spoke about it earlier. You spoke about the fact that people, it's difficult to absorb a lot of putting people through an
yeah,
entire training program again, because people don't absorb everything. But and then nowadays our attention span, it is being
yeah,
said that it's getting shorter and shorter because of how exposed we are to pieces and bits of
yes,
information through social media,
yeah,
where we just keep scrolling and scrolling, and we don't even pay attention to things. We move quickly from one topic to another topic. It's
mm-hmm,
amazing. And so breaking it down the way that you are saying here is what for me um, uh,
mm-hmm,
is what addresses this one. And it's connected to number two, the irrelevant training curves, because
yeah,
you break it down. This means you really need to narrow down your content and focus on what is going to make the biggest impact there to your learner.
yeah. And again, I would also go back to making sure that the learner knows where to find that information once it does become relevant for their problem
Right.
or issue, right?
Absolutely.
So
Hmm.
putting that on a learn on need basis, like this is what you want to or need to learn now. Or I think about, like, let's say somebody's being onboarded in the company, right? You can't expect a new hire to know everything um, all in one
Yeah.
go, but
Right.
let
Yes.
them, right? So let them know that at least where to find or who to talk to for certain concerns, or what can I do if I have questions about this and all that stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah. Number six, nightmare number six, the
Hmm.
one size fits all text. Generic courses that ignore individual needs.
Okay. Lack of customization.
Mm-hmm.
lack of customization. But you see here, the customization is also what makes it, like addressing number six also addresses number two, because customization is what makes it relevant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And then addresses number
Yeah.
three as well, because the learner doesn't become a zombie. It's talking their language. It's speaking to their need.
Yeah.
It basically means that they are going to be able to relate to the content quickly.
Right. So if we battle the irrelevant training curse, the which one? What numbers did you point out? Irrelevant training curse, overload beast,
And and the zombie learner,
the zombie
because
learner.
you
So
get a
these,
person engaged.
yeah, these three monsters. You fight these three monsters, you get rid of the hex. The one size fits all. Hi, we're going to end there and we'll continue with the next episode for part 2 of the 13 L&D Nightmares. Stay tuned.